Hi everyone. Today's video is a little different. It's about vinyl records. Now, of course, I grew up, because I'm old, with vinyl records. And then when CDs came along, I ended up selling most of my vinyl collection and replacing it with CDs. A lot of people did. And overall, I don't miss vinyl records. I like CDs. But I made a list of 12 vinyl records that I either owned at one point or just always wanted to own but never did. And I'm going to show you the ones I wish I had. First up is a Canadian band, the Guess Who. I actually had this on vinyl a few years back. It was in the original, it was still sealed in the original wrap. But I opened it because I couldn't help myself. But I ended up giving it to a friend because I'm a nice guy. I want it back now. But yeah, this was kind of a parody on the Ed McMahon, win $1 million contest. Everybody would get these kind of envelopes in the mail. So it was a parody of it. And so that is an actual envelope, and where it says artificial paradise, it was plastic. Win big bucks fast. It's kind of like similar to Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick, with the humor. And there's the back, big winners, and the track listing. Follow Your Daughter Home. Some of you might know that song, Orally. Very good album. Not their best, but still a very good album. Includes their new hit album. And then that would be the insert that the vinyl record was in. So yeah, I just love the humor of it and, the presentation. And then the other side. Praise the Lord and pass the bucks. And there's the label. That's the one thing I do miss about vinyl records is when there was special packaging. And, with CDs, the print sometimes is so small it's hard to read. Yeah, and came with that letter. Marty Slick. And a lyric sheet. So that's the first. These aren't ranked or anything. Just... Yes, and I never did. I, of course, had the regular Yesterday and Today. But I kind of wonder, when this came out, I wonder if here in Trenton, Ontario, where I was living when this came out, and still living, I wonder if this was in the stores for a couple of days. Because it would be good to have. But I don't think I've ever even seen a copy of this in person. It is rather disturbing. Yeah, and this was the Canadian and American. Of course, this wasn't an actual Beatles studio album, but back then, I didn't know, and neither did a lot of other Beatles fans. As you can see, some of the other Beatles albums that Canada and the United States got. So yeah, that would be nice to have on vinyl. And then, speaking of the Beatles, Let It Be in Canada and the UK, it came with a book. And one of my older brothers, I never owned this myself, but one of my older brothers did. But I couldn't even look at it. I couldn't touch it, and I couldn't even look at it, or he'd kill me. But what I do remember is the book. Yeah, there's the book right there. the book would easily fall apart. The gluing on it was pretty bad. And I remember even my brother's was kind of all falling apart. But it would certainly be cool to have. Now, this one, once again, I had it on vinyl back in the 70s, and then I had it again probably about 15 years ago, and I gave it away along with that Guess Who album. The Who live at Leeds, yes. And this one was packaged like a bootleg album. And it's a great live album, by the way. There's the label. Of course, I've got the expanded version on CD now. Yeah, and it came with, not the greatest picture there, but it came with a poster and all kinds of paperwork, contracts, and just really interesting stuff. And yeah, it's not showing it all, but a lot of paraphernalia, as they call it. Next, this one I always remember seeing in the stores, but of course, when I was like 10 years old, I was broke. I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy it. It is the Rolling Stones. I guess they don't really call it 3D. I forget the name for it, but still, when you would move the cover, the faces would change a little bit. And yeah, I always, remember seeing that, like I said, in the record stores in the late 60s and thinking it was so cool. And I never had my own copy of it. I did have it on CD at one point, but the 3D, it wasn't the same. They couldn't replicate what they did with the vinyl for whatever reason. And it's actually a very underrated album. I listened to that again just the other night, and really good. Even Sing This All Together, See What Happens is much better than I remember it being. And of course, the great 2,000 Light Years from Home, which might be my favorite Rolling Stones song. And She's a Rainbow, and In Another Land is great. Yeah. I wish I had it on vinyl. What else? Another one I used to see in the record stores in the late 60s. Never owned it on vinyl. And I remember, picking it up, and it was pretty heavy and it was thick because there was a calendar in it. Yeah, a 12-month calendar. John and Yoko's live piece in Toronto. I have it on CD, of course, but not with the calendar. Yeah, and there's the calendar. Another one I was just thinking that I never owned was the wedding album with all of the stuff in it. But yeah, that would have been cool to have. What else here? And once again, this one I remember seeing in record stores, and I had no idea what the music was like, but just from seeing the album cover was like, I think I would like this. Yeah, Frank Zappa's We're Only in It for the Money. Let's see here. There we go. And of course, they had to reverse it because they couldn't get the rights for the parody of Sergeant Pepper to be on the cover, which is kind of too bad. But I actually kind of like it the way it is. Yeah, there's what they wanted to have as the cover. And you can see Jimi Hendrix there, and he was a friend of Frank Zappa's, and he's actually standing there. There's Frank. The cutouts. Yeah. Now, as some of you know, I am a fan of Sparks. I have been for 50 years now. And their first album wasn't called Sparks. It was called Halfnelson. And I think, now that I think of it, I actually did have that on vinyl at one point. And I foolishly traded it in or something. What an idiot. But yeah, Sparks was originally called Halfnelson. And then they repackaged this album a few months later because it wasn't selling. Their manager talked them into changing their name to the Sparks Brothers. And so they shortened it to Sparks. And they re-released this with the brick wall in the background. But I like this album cover more. Here's the back. Produced by Todd Rundgren. So that would have been nice to have. What else? This album, I remember one of my older brothers having it. Of course, with the working zipper, it would be cool to have a vinyl copy of that. Of course, that zipper would damage other albums. You know, you would have them in a record bin or whatever, and it would indent on some other album, or even the vinyl record itself. It would sometimes damage it. Oh, I did include, the wedding album. I've never owned that or even seen it in person. I do have it on CD. Not that I play it. Yeah, and there's a piece of cake you get. Some of John's drawings. Yeah, that'd be cool to have. I know my buddy Glenn Kellaway from the basement actually has an 8-track. I believe it's an 8-track of the wedding album, and it's sealed still. So yeah, one more. So I guess there's 11 in total. I'll just have 10 for the title of the video just so I don't confuse anybody. But the other one is, and I did have it on vinyl back in the early 70s. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Three Dog Night, 7 Separate Fools. And it was almost like a box set, but, just one vinyl record. And it came with these large cards of each band member. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, that's hard to read. Contains 7 individual color cards. 7.5 or 7.25 by 11 inches. So, and there they are, all 7 of them. Yeah, and they would be separate. So 7 cards. And pretty cool. And a very good album, too. So yeah, that's it. Oh, there's each of the individual band members, front and back. Floyd, Shermy. Yeah, and is that Corey? I believe. Yeah, so just, memories of vinyl. Sometimes I do miss, people ask me sometimes, why did you get rid of your vinyl records? Well, it's because CDs came along and everybody was excited and they ended up most people ended up selling all of their vinyl records and replacing them with CDs. And sometimes, you regret it. Some of it. So that's it. I would love your thoughts. Please remember to leave a comment below, on what vinyl records you wish you had in your collection, or maybe you do. And like the video, and please remember to subscribe. Thank you. Bye.